Welcome back, everyone, to Light Talk, where everyday people can share their own unique spiritual journey stories with a safe and supportive community. If you have a story you would like to share, email lighttalk423 at gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons down below. We have a fantastic, very interesting guest for you today. I'm going to hand the mic over, so go ahead and introduce yourself and welcome to the show.
Hi, Dana. My name is Wajid Hassan. Thank you for having me on the show. And I believe we're going to discuss the paranormal and life after death and extraterrestrials. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you.
Yeah, it's been a great pleasure having you on the show. And yes, we have some very interesting stories we have talked about. And how about we go ahead and start in with the entity in your current home?
My
Your home, the ones there are some suicides and tapping on the wall. Should we
well,
start
I
with that
kind of
one?
yeah, I kind of moved in. Your listeners probably are aware that the life goes on. There's no such thing as death. And when we pass on, we go to other realms of existence. Reincarnation is a fact, it's not a theory. It's a spiritual law which actually a lot of the mainstream religions have hidden from their listeners. And eventually, this will, including the Christian religion, they actually hid the law of reincarnation back in AD 424 when they had the meetings of the elders of Constantinople. At that time, they decided to take reincarnation out of the Christian religion and put this one life to live, so that they could control the masses. And the theory behind that was that if they push this one life to live, people would, uh, go, push themselves spiritually. But unfortunately, most people said, well, there's one life to live. I'm just going to have a good time. But coming back to, yeah, so when we die, the physical body is left on, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And then our soul goes through different realms of existence based on our vibration, what we've done on this earth. So it's not a punishment, but it just goes to, according to my spiritual teacher, who actually visited these realms where we pass on. He said there's 6 levels above us, and there's 4 levels below us, which are called the lower astral realms. So we go there for a while, stay there, learn, and then we come and reincarnate back on Earth, and the cycle goes on till we get to the point where eventually we learn all the lessons that we need to learn and move on to higher classrooms of learning. But coming back to I moved into this building in Michigan where they had a couple of suicides, and sometimes people who pass on don't even realize that they passed on, and they don't have that guidance to move them to the other realms, and so they think that they're still on the physical realm. So I had that situation in my unit where people thought they were still living there, and they were probably, the knockings on the wall and tappings and all that were probably a way of showing attention to the fact that they wanted to make me know that they were there. And so eventually what I did with my spiritual practices, and I think you did the same with your spiritual practices, that eventually I managed to, raise the vibration of I put my spiritual altar up, did some protective practices, some prayers, raise the vibration, and eventually that allowed them to move on. And since then, I haven't had these tappings and knockings and all that. So these are real. Unfortunately, sometimes they can be actually dangerous, where we have situations where people, have hauntings, and these are from probably lower astral entities, and those need to be done with specialized people who can handle these kind of entities. But yeah, life goes on, and just because we can't see the other realm doesn't mean that they're not there. It's like we can't see the wind, but we can feel the wind. We can't see electricity, but we know what it does. And these different vibrations, they're they're just as physical. They're just on a more subtle level. So if you go to the other realms and you're in a room and you're in a wall and you hit your head on a wall, you will hurt your head because you're on that same physical vibration as everybody else. So they are real.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Just my experiences of just hearing voices and stuff. I mean, they're there. I mean, they're helping us through our lives also, not just being here or being stuck here. They're also part of our lives to help us through our learnings and whatnots that we do
Well,
here.
that actually brings me up to a different topic, which is the aspects of spirit guides, and then there's family members who are passed on, and they kind of keep an eye on, children have seen their grandparents, and people have seen their parents, not only come in their dreams, but actually physically there in their room, and I had a situation, a friend of mine, he had a terrible motorcycle accident, and he was unconscious, and he projected from his body, and his relatives were there immediately around surrounding him. Um, and then they asked whether he wanted to stay or wanted to go back, and he kind of said he wanted to go back. And then he came back, and he was surrounded by paramedics and everything. So people have those experiences, and then I think spirit guides are very helpful, the good ones. I don't really rely on spirit guides. I use my intuition more than spirit guides because sometimes you have to be careful. You and me, we could easily become mediums if we wanted to. But I use my medium skills when I'm doing healing. Like I do laying on of hands. I've been doing that for over 40 years. And when I do that, sometimes I get picturizations of the patient's spirit guides, and they kind of guide me where to put my hand on the patient and what different things that I do. So I use my psychic skills in that way. And some people they use their medium skills to contact relatives of people. I have a friend of mine, him and his wife, they do that, and his wife actually draws. She's a very good artist, and he describes the guides of these people, and she actually draws these beings, and 90% of the time they say, yeah, that is my brother or my sister or my aunt or uncle. So the bottom line is, yeah, life goes on. We have to kind of discriminate. We can't take everything on face value. So if we get certain messages or guidance, then we have to kind of double check our own intuition and make sure that we're not being misguided as well. Don't you agree?
I have heard things along that line. Sometimes when I'm using my pendulum, I get this like, this isn't feeling right. So I stop,
Right.
I put it away for a while and then I'll go back. And if I feel like it's of good, then
Yes.
I'll use it. But
I remember in the 80s, they had this stupidity of manufacturing these Ouija boards, which is very, very dangerous. And a lot of kids got possessed by entities because, they thought it was a game. And so
mhm.
things like Ouija boards and all that stuff, I would definitely stay away from, and go with what my intuition goes, and and like you said, the feeling, is this right or is this wrong, and then not to dwell too much on and rely too much on the other. Sometimes people also need to move on, and they need to continue their lives on the other realm. So I only respond when people. I remember a friend of mine was ill in New Zealand, In fact, he had a stroke, and his wife, who had passed away for a few years, she actually came into my room for a couple of days and was trying to tell me that, that my friend was, had a stroke. And, I I discriminated and I was very careful, but I got the message. And then later on, I found out that he had a stroke. So I kind of allow, I don't go out of my way to kind of try to contact relatives or entities, because we have to be very, like I said, very discriminating and very careful in this field of psychic development.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get into some classes and stuff this upcoming year, to enrich my sight mediumship skills. So I'm excited for that. So to learn more about it and to get more in tuned with it. Yeah, I'm excited. Excited.
There was a case of a midget who was scamming people with his mediumship, and they arrested him. So the headlines next day, they said short, medium, at large.
Oh yeah.
All right, just throw that one later. Add a little humor.
Oh, that's good. That was good. Yay. I like it. I like that. That was good. Um, you mentioned something with you were finding gray hairs on the floor. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I had that when I'm from England, and I was raised in England. And when I was about 18, I lived in this house, and again, I was getting tappings. But in this situation, not only tappings at night, there was actually gray hairs on the floor, and I showed them to a friend of mine who examined them and said, "Yeah, these are actually actual human hair." So they were trying, so these things also manifest as well. They can manifest material objects. I kind of, at first it kind of intrigued me, and then it got to the point where one night, again, there was tapping on the wall and gray hairs on the floor. And I finally said, "Look, whoever you are," because these are real people. They're just in a different vibration. And I said, "Whoever you are, I got to get to work the next day. So can you, like, please leave me alone and go away?" And then after that, it all stopped. So I just pretty much told them to leave me alone. So I think what it is in that situation, these could be like mischievous entities that are trying to scare you. And so if you show no fear, they back off and they go away and they try to look for somebody else. So in situations like that, it's important not to be scared or allow anybody to intimidate you or make you fearful. Because if they do, then they can kind of, take over you and possess you and all this stuff. So those are the things you have to watch out for.
Yeah, it's a very delicate situation when you're dealing with spirit, for sure. Some things I've been learning about it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think you
Yeah.
told me some of the experiences you've had, which are, very similar to mine. And the thing, what your listeners need to understand is this is natural. This is not supernatural or unnatural. This is normal occurrence, and this has been going on for thousands of years.
Hmm.
So people have had all kinds of experiences, good and bad. They've had, sometimes these nightmares we have, are they nightmares, or are they actually happening? So we have to watch out. And but at the same time, there's enough going on in the world with all the mess that we're in. And so what I try to do is focus on what's going on in the world, and channel my energies towards more constructive things like spiritual healing, sending out power to the world. I join an online group every day, and we get together worldwide and we send out power. So again, you can kind of get into mediumship and psychic investigation and this, that, and the other, or you could focus on being on service. And I believe in these days, I believe being of service, no matter what you're doing, is more important than self development or mediumship or whatever. So I focus on that more.
Okay. Okay. I'll take you to heart on that. Um, another story you had mentioned was an entity that was on top of you. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, that was I had, I was born in Pakistan, but my parents moved to England when I was 3, and I had a chance in 1985 to go to Pakistan, and I was in the port city of Karachi, and I woke up one morning, and it felt like somebody was on my chest, and I was paralyzed, and I couldn't move, and so I couldn't understand quite what it was, and I struggled, and then uh, then I just relaxed and kind of allowed myself not to get too anxious about what was happening, and then it went away. So yeah, again, that's a common occurrence. A lot of people have that as well, and I don't want the listeners to kind of get to this situation where, we're all being possessed or being chased by entities. That's not the case. But sometimes certain things happen, and that was an experience that I had,
Yeah, so what did it feel like? Did it feel like
and
it was
it
like
wasn't
a,
very pleasant.
yeah. Did it feel like it was like an ET being, or was it like a spirit being? I mean,
Yeah,
can you explain
yeah,
how it felt?
again, you made a good point because I'm of the strong belief, based on my own experiences, that ETs are not. I believe that they're not ETs, that these demon or entities that try to haunt you or possess you. I believe that they're from the lower levels. That there are demons and devils and whatever, the past, people who committed crimes, murder, violence, robbery, they go to these lower realms as well. And sometimes they try to influence people on the physical realms. With my experience of extraterrestrials, I believe they're benevolent. They're very advanced beings, very scientific and very spiritual beings. So people, they see these gray, bug-eyed creatures trying to experiment on them in their sleep or being possessed by these kind of entities. I believe they're more earthbound uh, demonic entities and not extraterrestrials. So that's the belief I hold, and my yogi master that I followed actually met some of these extraterrestrials, and they're actually not little green men or bug-eyed. They're actually very benevolent humanoids, kind of large, and very, very caring. So I want to throw that out as well, where people seem to think that extraterrestrials are trying to take over us. And if that was the case with their technology and their prowess and their scientific prowess, they could have done that, you know, years ago. So I
Right.
don't think, yeah, like I say, my yogi master was in contact with them, and he asked them, he said, if you did take over this planet, how long would it take? They said within 15 minutes, we could completely take over your planet. So they're very powerful beings, but they don't interfere with the law of karma. They allow us to focus, to use our free will. And if we want to misuse our free will and war and, corporate greed and the unbalanced things that are happening on this world, they allow us, they won't interfere with that. But if we cooperate with them and we send an energy out, they can beam spiritual energy to us from the sun. If we cooperate with them, then we can help the world. So they're here to inspire us, uplift us, send us power, and that's what's needed right now. We talk about
Mhm.
physical pollution. There's a mental pollution on this planet. Just check out social media and the hatred and jealousy and everything that's going on right now. So we need to transform that and realize, their message is that we're all one race, the human race. We have different bodies, different cultures, different religions, different sexes, but we all come over and over again with different experiences,
Right.
which again comes back to reincarnation. If the law they would eventually want the spiritual law, the law of karma, action, reaction, and the law of reincarnation to be reintroduced back onto the earth, so that people would think twice before they go to war, thinking that this could be a mother or a father or a brother or sister in their previous life. And all this racial discrimination would go right out the door, and this pride of being proud of this race or this country would go right out the door. Because if you think you're a white person in this life, you may not necessarily be a white person in the next life. You could be an African American, or you could be a Japanese or an Eskimo. So we're all interconnected. We're all on different levels of experience.
Mm-hmm.
It also answers the inequality, why somebody's born rich and poor, why a child is great at math, and some don't have, some have learning disabilities. These all come from past life experiences, and that has to be explained to children. The law of reincarnation and law of karma, the action reaction is opposite and equal. So whatever you do, you will reap the rewards of your actions. And so those are the things that need to be taught to the children before math and science and whatever that they teach these days in school.
Yeah, and you've got a good point there about the you never know who you're going to be with, or who was your parent or brother or sister or relative of any sort, because you could be any nationality in any given
Exactly.
life. And it's not even an earthly nationality either. I mean, we can be somewhere from Arcturian, or, we could be anybody of any being.
Yeah, well, that is true, but I think as a race we're all pretty much terrestrials. We're pretty much Earthlings, and so I also believe that there is a spiritual awakening occurring on the planet, and there
Mm-hmm.
is going to be a new age of peace and prosperity. And
Mm-hmm.
all this politicians, at each other's throats, the generals and the corporate greed, and the inequality, where minority of people are rich, while majority of people are poor. All this eventually is going to go down, because you can't disobey the law of karma forever. All this will come back, and I believe in the future this earth is herself is a living being who's going to be, who's raising her vibrations. So don't believe everything you hear about climate change. She's also changing as well. And then only the people who can handle the spiritual vibes of the earth, Mother Earth herself, will be allowed to stay on this planet. The rest, if they don't cooperate, won't be allowed, and they won't be able to reincarnate. They'll probably be reincarnated on a younger planet in the solar system. And that's what some of the wise yogi adepts have been saying in the past, and now have been saying as well. Even the extraterrestrials are saying that eventually there's a reckoning that's coming. And so we have to decide whether we want to continue our disastrous, savage ways, because we are known as a very savage, warlike planet, or change and become the kind of beings that we always were. We were a very advanced race of beings at one time. We've
Right.
just digressed because of our own free will. And so they want us to come back and become this, advanced race that we were, and not, not end up in atomic slime, which we
Yeah.
did. I mean, this is
Yeah.
not the first time nuclear bombs have been discovered. Evidence goes back to the civilizations of Lemuria and Atlantis that were both destroyed by nuclear war. So, history repeats itself. Either we change, or we go back and have another nuclear holocaust. It's up us. And so it begins with, you, me, and the listeners, because the religious leaders and the politicians and the generals and the corporate leaders are not listening. They're just thinking about themselves.
Do you feel
So
that
it's
the
time for you,
um
me, and the common person out on the street.
right, right. Do you believe that the ETs would be helping us out if we did get into a nuclear war, that they would help stop that?
They didn't, they didn't stop Hiroshima. They didn't stop Nagasaki. You know, they didn't stop the murder of 6 million Jews. These were all what we did to each other. So they're not going to come in and interfere with our situation. One thing that they will not allow is they won't allow us to destroy the Mother Earth. So if we engage in a nuclear war and we murder each other, then that's up to us. But the moment the Earth is threatened, then they will intervene. And in the way they would intervene they would probably destroy the rest of civilization to save the Earth. So it's and then we would have to all of us would have to reincarnate on a younger world. So these are tough times, but the spiritual armor and the spiritual inspiration and the spiritual energy is available to every one of us now to make a change in this world. And I strongly believe that there is a spiritual awakening. People are listening to their intuition, and they're coming out and they're realizing that this has to end,
Yeah,
in a peaceful way, not in a bloody way, in a peaceful way.
right,
You
right.
know,
I agree.
I
I
think the
agree on
next,
that.
I think they said the next revolution is a mental revolution, a peaceful
I can
mental
see that.
revolution. So we have to change our mindset. We change our mindset to higher vibrations, then we change the race, because we're part of the race. We're interconnected.
Hmm.
All the billions of cells in our bodies are all interconnected with our body. And it's the same with us as the human race. We're all metaphysically connected.
Yeah.
We're just as close to, the pygmies in Africa as we are to our own children. But people don't realize that we're all one.
Yeah. I've kind of came up with an analogy with that is say we're all as one and we are all part of God, right? We're all God's children. So I've
Right.
kind of came up with this little analogy as God has sneezed, all of those little particles of his sneeze has been thrown out, and that's us. We are those little particles because we're all part of him, and those particles are part of him. That's
Well,
been kind of spread out.
God sneezed, but a lot of the particles became human boogers.
I didn't say anything about that yet, but that is good. I will definitely agree with that. That was good. I love it. Um, yeah, that was awesome. That was good. I have to keep remember that one. I'll have to take your little quote on that. That's good. That was good. I like it. Yeah, we are just about out of time. So, yeah, it was so awesome having you on the show. And it was fantastic. I mean, you have some very interesting and very exciting things that you've done in your life, and you're very knowledgeable about all of this, and it's been great having you on the show.
If people want to learn more about what I was talking about, they can go to my website, which is wajidauthor.com, WAJIDAUTHOR.com, and learn more about my book and what I've been talking about as well.
Yeah, and I'll put all that information down below for all of you. And if any of you have any stories you would like to share and get out to the public and help raise the energy of Earth, feel free to email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons down below. And we will hopefully get you on the show next. So we will talk with everybody later. Thank you so much for being on the show. And it was a great joy having you here.
My pleasure, Dana. Great to see you as well. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone. See you next.